Western colonial atrocities in Cameroon are gradually being exposed. A letter from French President Emmanuel Macron to his Cameroonian counterpart Paul Biya has shed light on France's brutal war on the African country. Macron acknowledged the use of repressive violence by French forces during and after Cameroon's struggle for independence. But this raises more questions.
What he did was just a statement, acknowledges responsibility, but stops short of a formal apology. He didn't apologize about this. He just acknowledged that there was something like this. He also offers that archives and corporations will be put in place, but there were no preparations or reparations or, let's say, material support to affected families and regions. Yeah, you open archive. What about those who really suffer the consequences? Nothing has been done to them. The third point is that he does not lay out a concrete justice process.
What exactly were the French atrocities? The story of Cameroon's colonization began in the late 19th century when European powers, including Germany, Britain, and France, scrambled for control of African territories. The Berlin Conference of 1884 to 1885 marked a turning point, with Germany establishing control over Cameroon. However, after the defeat of Germany in the World War I, Cameroon was mandated to Britain and France, with the British controlling the western regions and the French controlling the eastern regions. On 1st January 1960, French-ruled Cameroon gained independence. In 1961, the British and French-controlled territories of Cameroon were joined together. Amadou Ahidjo was the first Cameroon leader after independence. Cameroon's struggle for independence was tough and bloody due to the colonizers' brutality. French forces killed tens of thousands of people, including independence icons such as Ruben Nyobe, Felix Ronald Mumi, Isaac Nyobe Panjok, Jeremy Ndelene, and Paul Momo. The exact number of Cameroonians killed is not yet clear. Hundreds of thousands of civilians were forced into internment camps where they faced executions, disappearances, and other atrocities.
Il y a eu énormément de massacres. Je crois que le massacre le plus emblématique, c'est celui d'Équité dans la Sanaga maritime dans la nuit du 30 au 31 décembre 1956. Donc, l'armée française a pratiquement massacré tout un village. On parlait de 500 morts complètement, des civils, des armées qui ont été massacrés dans ce village. Le rapport Amondi en parle, bien évidemment, mais il n'y a pas que cet aspect-là. Il y a énormément d'exactions qui ont été commises, mais toujours est-il que ce massacre d'Équité a retenu l'attention. Et je pense que la France a besoin, peut-être non pas de parler avec le gouvernement, mais parler directement avec les victimes. Parce que les mouvements, les sympathisants de l'UPC continuent justement de subir cette répression qui a été initiée bien avant l'indépendance du Cameroun et qui continue d'ailleurs sous d'autres formes. Hein. On peut penser évidemment à le contrôle du franc CFA par la France, qui est une forme de colonisation, qui est un des vestiges de la période coloniale qui continue d'impacter l'économie camerounaise. Il y a aussi les aspects politiques qui sont souvent activés à partir de la France et qui continuent justement à mécontenter une bonne partie de la population camerounaise.
The brutal suppression of Cameroonian resistance movements was kept hidden for years.
Pour cacher cette guerre au public français et camerounais, la France a recouru à de multiples stratégies. D'abord, dans les années 1955, notamment après la défaite de la France en Indochine, la France a envoyé au Cameroun une leçon de guerre révolutionnaire, qui est un ensemble de mesures à mettre sur pied pour délégitimer le combat des nationalistes camerounais. Et dans ces méthodes, une circulaire envoyée par Roland Pré prescrivait la mise sur pied des organes de presse qui vont vanter le mérite de l'administration française tout en minimisant les activités des indépendantistes camerounais. Ensuite, au cours de la guerre même, les régions en conflit étaient interdites aux journalistes. Les quelques journalistes qu'on permettait de visiter ces régions étaient ceux acquis aux activités que menait la France, c'est-à-dire les activités clandestines, la répression des indépendantistes. À la proclamation de l'indépendance nominale. L'indépendance nominale voudrait dire une indépendance vidée de toute sa substance parce que tous les postes de souveraineté étaient noyautés par les Français.
France's admission of these atrocities in President Macron's letter breaks decades of official silence. This follows a historical report the French government commissioned in 2022 to reveal the true extent of France's colonial violence in Cameroon. The findings were based on declassified archives, eyewitness accounts, and field research. It showed that France's military operations in Cameroon were brutal and deadly. However, Macron fell short of offering a formal apology and reparations.
I think the main reason why the Cameroon struggle has been a little bit of shrouded, it has been shrouded because of colonial ties. And I should put the blames on the leaders because our leaders have strong relations with France. It seems as they work in collaborations in many ways because France today still have they have a lot that they do within the country. Even the currency of the country is being made in France. So you can tell you how connected the two countries are. Maybe the masses, the people might be angry with France, but the government is with France.
France's colonial violence was not unique. Germany, which controlled Cameroon from 1884, also committed atrocities. German colonial forces used forced labor, expropriated land, and violently suppressed local resistance. The German colonial era was marked by widespread human rights abuses. When Britain and France took control of Cameroon after World War I, the British also contributed to the country's colonial legacy. Britain imposed its own system of rule and exploited Cameroon's resources as well as human rights abuses. All the colonial powers looted countless cultural artifacts, the treasures of Cameroon, many of which have not yet been returned.
Until we have total freedom, total decolonization, Africa as a whole, or most countries in Africa, will continue to be maybe maltreated this way. If you look at into the history of Cameroon, they had this issue of divide and rule, okay? So they come and they use your people to rule your people. And if your leaders go against your expectations, you're being killed. You get it? There are many people who resisted against the French and they were killed, like a lot of them. There are so many people that they lost their life in the process. And we want accountability. We want the archives to be open.
La présence française n'a pas été contestée uniquement dans le grand sud du Cameroun, y compris dans la partie septentrionale du Cameroun aussi. Mais les figures emblématiques qui ont incarné cette lutte coloniale contre l'héritage français, c'est bien évidemment, comme vous venez de le mentionner, Oumyobé et bien sûr Félix Mounier. Ces deux nationalistes camerounais ont entamé une lutte multiforme. Le premier, c'est-à-dire Oumyobé, après avoir fondé l'UPC dès 1948, a essayé justement de contester cet héritage colonial à partir des actions politiques, à partir des actions diplomatiques. On se rappelle, dès 1952, il a tenu un discours au niveau des Nations Unies pour contester la présence française. Il y a aussi Roland Félix Mounier qui a aussi poursuivi dans la même direction Mais évidemment, face à la répression française, il a fallu très vite changer de stratégie et de tactique pour passer à la clandestinité, à la lutte armée. Grosso modo, l'héritage culturel français, il continue toujours d'impacter la situation politique et économique du Cameroun à l'heure actuelle.
On attend encore des excuses et les réparations. Et puis l'ouverture intégrale des archives, leur numérisation et la mise à disposition de tous les chercheurs. Le fait de les numériser et de les mettre en ligne éviterait à ceux qui souffrent pour obtenir le visa pour aller faire de la recherche pour laquelle ils n'ont même pas de moyens de pouvoir faire la recherche en ligne sans faire de courbette pour un visa vers la France.
The acknowledgement of colonial atrocities comes as France faces unprecedented, difficult times. France's influence in its former African colonies is rapidly waning. New leaders, especially in West and Central Africa, are seeking to assert their sovereignty and break free from the brutal legacy of colonialism. Cameroonians are now adding to that pressure, demanding justice and accountability from Paris. They say they need a public apology, reparations, and a victim-centered reconciliation process. Macron's admission of French brutality in Cameroon might just be the beginning of a new chapter.